Well, I was trying to do a southwestern yip, but my voice box just didn't cooperate. Happy May 6th, the day after Cinco de Mayo, the week after the running of the roses. I'm here with Robert Prothero. David Bell is with us. He's working things out. Welcome to another episode of Two Fish Tuesday.
Yep.
I think that's kind of where we're going with it. This week, we're going to continue talking about our budgeting for cybersecurity, small, medium-sized businesses. If you are looking at cybersecurity, network security, there's no better time to get yourself secure than right now. The next best time would have been yesterday because the hackers aren't taking time off and you need solutions that don't take time off either. But we understand that it can be scary to look at. Maybe you don't know all about the tools. Maybe you're unsure about the cost. Well, today we're going to talk about building a scalable cybersecurity strategy, and when you're on a budget. Our objective is to help SMBs, or the owners and decision makers, understand how to build a flexible, realistic cybersecurity roadmap tailored to their business size, industry, and growth pace. What do you think about that, Robert?
I think that's a good idea.
All right, well, let's get right into it. What does a scalable cybersecurity strategy actually mean for a small business?
Well, it really means building a security plan to protect your business not only today, but as it grows into the future. So it's, everything from what we're trying to, so we're trying to accomplish, the most important parts of a cybersecurity would be like backups of all of your computers and imaging of all of your computers. In a lot of cases, there's so many companies that still don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not an expensive thing, but it can save you, and people don't really think that how much that can save. There are some little things that can. And so really, it's pretty much starting out with things like backups and MFA, which is multi-factor authentication, which is kind of a pain.
We've talked about that several times, but I find the more I use it that it's less and less of a pain.
And I think the technology is getting better to where it's simpler to do that. Sometimes you're not anymore, you don't really wait on an email every time. It used to be an email, and sometimes it wouldn't come in for a minute or two, and that's kind of a problem. Today, they've sped that up. They made it a little bit better. It is quicker, but you have to use two devices in order to verify that it's you. And so if they end up stealing your password, they still won't be able to get into your stuff, and that's
right.
Really what we're after. So anyway, so you start off with something smaller, and then you attach and layer and build onto it, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about. So
right, and that's, scaling is something we talk about when we're moving up in our business. We know our business can take care of 5 clients. And not speaking from anything, but when we want to be able to go up and move up and work with 20 clients, and we've got to scale systems, we've got to scale people, we've got to do these things that make it make our business capable. And so when we talk about scaling our cybersecurity strategy, backups, MFA, endpoint detection, it's that same thought process of I can afford this piece now. Or I know that my business has to have records intact. So implementing a backup strategy might be something that we get into right now. And then MFA or endpoint detection. Of course, MFA doesn't really cost much. It's just getting people to implement it, getting your employees to implement and use it.
That's right.
So those are a few of our things that we layer in. Now with Two Fish, the cybersecurity suite is layered in. They've gone through, and when you're going, there's no scaling with it. It's here are the tools that we know work, and this is what our
really with
implementation.
With most IT companies, they allow you to pick and choose between the parts which there is a benefit to that. I mean, having a backup's better than not.
Mm-hmm.
Having MFA is better than not. Having your employees trained is better than not.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is some of that, but really, we do need to start off with having a few. Two-fish technology, on the other hand, we've decided that we weren't doing that, but we do have 3 different layers of entry.
Mm-hmm.
You can do them at any of the 3 layers, and really the way that we price is a little bit differently, and we price a very reasonably priced, per endpoint solution, but it deals with you pay a little bit more for the labor side. And so it's really about how much you want to pay for labor, if you want to include the labor or not include the labor. And so that's pretty much our scales. And so we've just found that, customers either need us a lot or they don't. They need us, a little bit more or a whole lot. And so they pick based on that. So our stuff becomes very cost effective.
Right. Cost effective, and it all works together because it's been layered in together. But it's not saying that every small business should only be looking at a one-stop shop such as that. But
correct.
If you need to put something together, those options are there. So where should if you're not looking at a two-fish, where should a business begin if they're starting from scratch?
Well, I really like the idea of starting with they call it a risk assessment. They call it, it could be penetration testing, but some sort of an assessment. So where are you now?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way that I can put a product in your network and be able to know where the risk is?
What are your baseline risks? We've got to start from somewhere, starting with knowing where the risks are.
In other words, what windows are unlocked?
Yeah.
What windows and doors are unlocked? Should we probably try to get those locked up? So that's really pretty big. So basically, this is me, but it's really about where is your data being held, and how much access are you offering that you don't know about?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's good. I think not knowing, having that idea of what don't I know? Where is my data being held? Versus where are the backups going to be for Two Fish's clients?
And you're exactly right. So if you were to look in your office and say, hey, everything that I own is on this computer,
mm-hmm.
or everything I own is on that server, or everything I own is in the cloud in Azure or at QuickBooks Online, or wherever it happens to be, well, you need to have a discussion. Have you protected that? In a lot of cases, you'll pay a third party to protect it, but how good is that protection? Are there better things out there for the same price and stuff like that? But it's really...
Well, it seems like you could be shopping forever then.
Yes.
So how do you make a decision? So if you're a small business and you're just starting out, where do you look to solve these first few problems? You're looking for a risk assessment, and then kind of layering in, okay, everything's kind of tightened up, but my backups. So you might want to lean that direction. Or maybe you're in a business where you don't need the backup so much, but you're always dealing with foreign countries, and so needing something like EDR that can cut you off from a system, from a network. But where we're starting is with a risk assessment.
I would also, even one step farther than that is maybe a consultation with somebody who does this every day. Sometimes...
Well, I think that's going to, that's not something that gets into my head, because you're at Two Fish, you're going to get that. If you're going to come to it, then you're going to want a risk assessment. You're going to have that consultation.
Correct.
If you're out there and you're looking for some of these tools, and you're working with a group that's not giving you a consultation, that's a huge red flag, and you got to walk away, because that's not somebody who's in it for you and your business. Here at Two Fish, you're going to get a consultation. You're going to get sat down with somebody who knows everything about the tools that are put together and how to use them. And but for a small business who may not, be working with a budget that allows them to step into the full suite of Two Fish tools, which admittedly is so much more affordable than I think that's what keeps people out of the market. Is A, there's so many tools that they don't know what to choose, and B, it's hard to know how to budget that much. Well, now we're talking about 3 to 5% of our budget based on our last episode.
Right.
Coming in to visit with someone, finding out, okay, where do we start? We've gone through our risk assessment. Where do we move from there? What's
Well, in my world, there are, let's say that you're trying to find a backup solution. How many thousands of those are on the internet?
Right.
I mean, there's thousands of them. Where do you know? How do you know what to do? I mean, all of them are probably reasonable.
Right.
But how do you know which ones are best, which ones work better, and everything else? So my approach is that even a business that isn't ready for this and all of this, if they were to call me, I would certainly give them free advice and direct them in a direction. I mean, obviously, I'd want to have them as a client later in life. But if they're not ready right now, I'm not ready to push them into that either. I'm just, but really, there's just too many factors to not go or talk to somebody who's actually doing this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that's my opinion.
Right. Yeah. I think you definitely want an expert dealing with your security.
Definitely.
Yeah. So then where does someone go past this? What we're talking about, scaling cybersecurity in their business. They're trying to find this. Where might they work into these different type of goals? Where are they going to scale into?
Okay. Well, in the short term, say 3 to 6 months, and the things that we were talking about, backups, multi-factor authentication, training your employees, doing some stuff that probably could be done reasonably, priced reasonably.
What's reasonably priced? Because I don't know what.
Really, really good.
Let's get customers. You're the expert that we're sitting down with. You keep talking to us saying you would want to sit down with an expert. That's what we're doing here. Walk us through. Let us know what's.
Okay. Yeah, we have been in situations to where somebody has had a data breach of some kind. And when we go in and we help them to solve the problem or whatever, and then they find out that maybe for $30 or $40 a month, they could have not had this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that becomes kind of a shock to them. Now, after that event, they're normally ready to spend the 30 or 40. So sometimes it's not very much. And so if you can look at that, if you wanted a full-blown cyber package, it is higher than that. But, there are ways of protecting yourself somewhat. Maybe it's 50% protected or 70% protected.
Yeah, talk us through this. So, the short term versus the long term there, in these different levels of protection.
The long term is more of working with a company that can give you kind of like an incident response plan. Is able to help you to buy your business liability insurance policy, and to tell you within that policy, are they doing are they performing the right standards so the policy will actually pay out, and doing stuff like that. So in the long term, meaning maybe 1 to 2 years, you might look more at that. Short term, we're talking about what we were talking about before, getting some backups, maybe some employee training, maybe doing multi-factor. Longer term, we're talking about setting up a system that basically watches your computer, takes care of it, allows your computer to disconnect itself from a computer network if you get infected so it doesn't affect anybody else, or vice versa. So, we have products that you can do that on. And so all of those things can be stacked on top of one another, all the way to having regular consultation and having regular help in terms of how do I buy insurance, and which insurance should I buy, and how much coverage should I have, and how do I make sure that the insurance company is going to pay out. It goes from one end to the other. That's
So
what we do.
how often then should someone be looking at these different tools? Okay, taking Two Fish's suite out of it, we know they are gold standard.
Yep.
But taking that out of it, because it's going to be looked at all the time, daily, as new things get better and are able to be implemented better within that tool. But for a small business who is scaling in their cybersecurity, how often do they need to look at that plan? Do they need to be thinking about, I need to take a look and make sure my employees are up to date on training, or if there's anything new,
For a small business, I would probably consider about, annually, doing it once a year. But there's also something if you are installing something new on your network. So if you're going to a new platform, a new software, something like that, sometimes doing it following that activity is also really good too, because adding something major to your current network. So as you grow and scale, probably annually. It also depends too. What type of data are you storing? There's certain businesses that are storing financial information, that are storing medical information, that are storing stuff like that. There's going to be more requirements. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna have to be done more. But I would say typically for a small business.
Might speak up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Typically for a small business, I would say probably once a year.
All right. What's the next thing we had? What's the biggest mistake small businesses make in their security plan?
This is kind of funny, because the biggest mistake that I believe is thinking that security is a one-time shot.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that I can pay for a great firewall and my security's complete. And so they try to throw money at it, or not throw money at it. They just basically think that security is a destination, and it's really not. Security is actually an ongoing. So yeah. I think that another common pitfall really would be that is putting all your trust basically in a single person, your single IT, something like that, and sometimes getting second opinions and getting, and stuff like that. So really, security is an ongoing process, and we need to make sure that we're continually doing it.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing, though, is that you can scale on a limited budget.
Yes. Maybe not with Two Fish as well as you can with.
Well, that makes it sound like Two Fish is expensive, and that's not what we're saying.
Right.
But that's the main goal of this episode is talking about how to scale on a budget.
Right.
Two Fish would be your best one-stop shop, because everything's put together. You've got your backups, you've got your EDR, your SOC, everything's in, everything works. It's just hourly, what you would pay hourly for having some help. But, if you're looking out at, say, a free tool, you want to be very careful. Like you said, where's your data being stored? Who actually owns this tool? Or is it just there to watch what you're doing? Or are they bringing anything to the table? I think too many times we think about antivirus and that being something that I don't think it works. If you're getting something free on your computer, you gotta wonder about its capabilities if it's just coming free on a computer. And then just if you're purchasing it just for a feel good, there are going to be tools that actually work. And I think looking at some of these ideas about how to scale, although we don't go into any particulars about, what tools might be there to fit in, these are certainly some ideas that hopefully will get you started on scaling cybersecurity into your business.
Right. So really, I would say that if we're talking about somebody scaling that is small, that's not ready to go to a full-blown, product kind of like ours, I mean, getting the data backup, I keep going back to that because I really truly believe that is one of the that's one of the hearts of
what businesses out there that are just first in your mind that need to be thinking about backup as their most important thing? That if there is a 3 or 4 business types that if you were to meet someone and they didn't have backup, you would say you got to go get that today.
That is interesting because I can't think of a business that should not do that.
Okay.
So, I mean,
so what should
if you're in business and you're billing somebody for your product, that information needs to be backed up. I mean, even if you had 10 or 20 customers.
And what does a good backup service cost? I mean, the two fish services are, they're going to be all bulked in together with everything else. But we're talking about someone who needs to scale. So we're thinking that maybe their budgeting is razor thin. They've got to make every dollar count. What should they think? Okay, this is a ballpark figure for backup services that are quality.
It is possible to actually go buy a drive and do it yourself.
So are we? But we're talking apples and oranges,
right? And so
but the question is,
it may not be an automated process, but there might be $100 spend.
Right. But those are apples to oranges. Let's say apples to apples. Let's say apples to apples, and somebody wants to go out and get a service. What's that? What's a service?
A reasonable service is going to start $10 to $15 a month, all the way up to $70 or $80 a month.
Okay.
For a backup service.
Okay.
And it really depends on what it does, how much flexibility that it has, how easy it is to be. And really, backup is one thing to copy and paste your information into a second site. That is better than nothing. But the features that are involved in a nicer product are going to be things like, I'm going to make your backup immutable. Mm-hmm. And so basically meaning that it's not connected to you anymore. So it's going to make a copy of your backup and it's going to basically be not connected.
So we're talking $20 to $80 a month to back up, what is that, one machine?
Yes.
The two fishes, Gold Star, Platinum product. What do we, for cybersecurity, backup, everything?
For the whole package is about $65 a month for the starting package.
For the starting package, but the Gold Star.
No, that's it. That has the Gold Star, everything in it.
$65 a month.
Right.
For everything. And everything is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything starts with the remote management, the desktop management with a help desk, meaning that you can call and we can remote into your computer. It does patch management on your computer, making sure that all of your software and everything is kept up to date. Keeps your computer cleaned up so it doesn't slow down. Mm-hmm. Everything from antivirus to EDR, endpoint detection and response, meaning that we'll have an AI watching what you're doing and being able to disconnect you if there's a.
And we've got those levels. So 65.
Yeah, and this 55 includes all that. And it includes also the managed security operations.
Right, 65, and then we've got
the difference between all of our packages are
what I'm trying to do is show our audience that you can spend 20 to 80 on backup, or you can spend 65 up to for
Up to
two fish.
Up to $200
So
a
does
month.
$65 sound like a lot now? I mean, I'd rather have that 65 that has everything in there plus the backups rather than $80 just for a backup.
Yeah, the difference between our packages is our packages include the same security products. It's the cost of the labor.
Right.
So our labor
That's
on the
what I'm.
smaller
That's
one.
what I'm
So
trying to get you to.
There you go.
Yeah.
So basically, our labor's higher.
Robert's
on
one of
the
these
bottom.
guys that I need a notepad to like write him notes while we're going, so he can stay. He gets off topic from us, but yeah, that's what we're trying to. We're trying to show people that hey, this isn't as expensive, and sometimes just knowing the price and knowing what's in it can be enough to help you make a great decision.
There you go.
So what else? So you got anything to? We're getting close to wrapping up here.
Yep. No, I mean, really, I think that a company needs to start with a couple of simple things. But kind of like we're saying, I would certainly talk to them about the entire package. I mean, we do customers all the way down to a single user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean,
they pay us $65 a month.
Well, that's great. We can bring that service to everybody, to all small businesses.
That's right.
And so, but step one of making a good decision is meeting with someone, having that consultation, and you need to find out those prices. So don't be afraid to ask them, what's it cost? What do I get? Make them write it down. Take all the information you can and shop around, come to Two Fish, make a good choice. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for us here on today's Two Fish Tuesday. Tomorrow, next week is going to be the end of our 4 episode series in budgeting for cybersecurity. We want you to come back, like, subscribe, tell your friends. If you've got a small business, tune in. We want to help you stay secure, make your business secure, and keep going down the road. Keep business rolling. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Come see us again.
Thanks.